The ocean remembers. It remembers storms that tore worlds apart, and it remembers quiet warnings whispered across tide lines. It remembers the footsteps of men who don't belong here. The morning they came from my cabin, the world felt wrong before anything happened. The gulls were silent, not arguing with the sky like they usually do. The wind didn't move. Even the tide held itself at the edge of the sand, like it was waiting for me to react. Then the black SUV rolled in. Shoreline Vista Community Enforcement. White stencil letters. Cheap. Forced. Pretending to be official. 3 men stepped out like actors in a low-budget authority fantasy. Clipboards, tactical belts ordered online, sunglasses polished until the reflection hid their insecurity. They scanned my cabin the way thieves look at something they think is already theirs. I set my coffee on the railing, looked the leader right in the eyes, and asked, "Tell me, how many body bags did your HOA order today?" Their faces shifted, the first crack in their confidence. But to understand why I asked that question, you need to understand what this place is. You need to know the weight of history beneath my feet. This cabin isn't a vacation spot. It's not a rental, not a side property, not an investment, not a summer home. It's blood, memory, foundation. My grandfather built it in 1958 with cedar he harvested, hauled, and cut himself. Storm-felled cedar, wood that holds storms the way some people hold grudges. He raised it high on pilings, not because a code inspector told him to, but because he respected hurricanes more than men in offices. The rocking chair on my porch still carries the grooves his arms carved into the wood. If I close my eyes, I can feel them, warmth that hasn't touched the world in decades. This land has survived storms that broke entire coastlines into bones. Lightning that danced across the water like sky fire. Waves that threw boats on a land like toys. The ocean remembers. And so do I. Across the dunes sits Shoreline Vista, a neighborhood born from brochures, meetings, and a belief that taste can be voted on. Identical houses, identical mailboxes, identical lives. They have community harmony meetings where they argue about mailbox height. They have coastal stewardship committees that talk about protecting nature while paving over dunes. They speak in words like standards compliance, visual unity, community enrichment. Words that hide the real meaning. Control. And people who crave control always come for what they think appears unclaimed. They didn't know my land was claimed before they were born. Documented in ink darker than sea storms. Signed, sealed, notarized, filed. Older than their entire development. The first time I met Mara Kane, she walked onto my porch like she'd already bought it. You could hear she didn't belong from the sound of her heels tapping across cedar planks. No one who respects the ocean wears heels on sand. Cream blazer. Blue blouse. Professional smile honed sharp enough to cut rope. Sunglasses big enough to hide half her face. "Mr. Carter?" she asked, though she knew. I didn't shake her hand. People like her don't offer hands. They offer contracts. She talked about shoreline access expansion, community wellness decks, a beach club concept. I could hear the translation behind every word. "We want what you have, and we think you're too small to stop us." Then she opened a glossy folder smelling of fresh ink and entitlement. "We'd like to offer you $72,000. For land worth 6 figures in shoreline rights alone. For cedar built by hand. For the place 3 generations have lived and died." My laugh slipped out. Not loud, not rude, just real. She didn't like real. "You'll change your mind," she said, smile thinning into a warning. Things are already in motion. When she walked away, her heels sounded like promises. 2 days passed. The sky stayed silver, calm, still. The kind of stillness that says something is moving beneath the surface. At sunrise, an envelope waited on my gate. Thick paper, embossed seal, self-importance disguised as professionalism. Notice of required voluntary departure. Those 3 words told me everything about the people who wrote them. Voluntary departure. A threat dressed like a choice. No map. No reference. No legal citation. Just their signature and their belief that their signature was law. They gave me 24 hours to leave my own home. I folded the letter. Not torn, not crumpled, folded. I placed it inside the fireproof box next to the deed and the shotgun. Evidence, not emotion. Then I brewed another pot of coffee and watched the tide. The ocean wasn't worried. So neither was I. At 8 a.m. sharp, the black SUV returned. The engine's idle sounded like arrogance. 3 men stepped out. Clipboard, the authority camera, the documenter muscle, the intimidation attempt. Clipboard walked straight into my dunes and planted a metal stake into my sand, hanging a sign. Community enforcement zone violations will be documented. You're trespassing, I said. He ignored it. Authority always pretends not to hear truth. When he started reciting HOA law at me, I walked down the steps, pulled the sign out of the sand in one smooth motion, and set it on my porch like trash. Calm, real calm, is terrifying. He threatened sheriffs, fines, legal action. I told him call them. He didn't. They left in a hurry, door slams louder than they needed to be. They came back the next morning, this time with a 4th man. Broad shoulders, military haircut, but he wasn't military. Real soldiers check the horizon first. He didn't. Mr. Carter, he said, not as a greeting, but as an announcement. You have one last chance to cooperate with the community transition plan. You brought more men this time, I said. As many as necessary. The wind stopped. Even the gulls paused. Then I asked him, tell me, how many body bags did your HOA order today? No dramatics. Just truth laid gently on the table. The men behind him shifted. His jaw locked. For the first time, he saw me, not as an obstacle, but as someone immovable. They left without speeches. Sometimes retreat is the clearest surrender. Some moments in life don't explode, they crystallize. After they drove off, I sat in my grandfather's rocking chair and listened to the tide pull at the shore. The kind of anger in me wasn't fire. It wasn't loud. It was stone. Slow, cold, patient anger. The kind that builds walls inside your chest. By the time I stood, the day was bright, shadows soft, the world calm. But inside, something had shifted. I didn't grab the shotgun. I didn't call anyone. I didn't need to, because tomorrow, Shoreline Vista would learn something the ocean already knew. I don't move. I don't break.